and then basically taking law enforcement and amping up their level. We wanted the subject of underage alcohol consumption to hit their radar. There are statutes and there are ordinances, but as you know, law enforcement responds very much to not only what the law is, but where is the community interest with this? For example, if they're getting a lot of phone calls because of unsafe drivers or speeders or folks blowing off stop signs, they're basically aldermen are getting called and the cop shop is getting called. And with that, whether they consciously do it or not, they typically will respond to something like that. It's hit the community's radar, so of course it hits law enforcement's radar at that point. When you work with law enforcement is just like any other business entity. They work on revenues, and they've got limited funds that come in for their operations. And so they've got to allocate that funding based on where they see the greatest level of need. And so when we talk to the various cop shops throughout the county, you know, they're strapped just like everybody else is. And so in terms of when you take a culture that is Wisconsin, as we would say, a beer-soaked and sozzled culture, the culture of drinking in Wisconsin is exacerbated by the fact that it doesn't rate particularly high with some of the various law enforcement agencies. Doesn't make them bad people. It just means that they've got to go through and determine, they got to pick their fights. And right now, things like domestic abuse, violent crime, any kind of gang involvement seems to be given a slightly higher prioritization. So as we took our message out in the community, as we talked to law enforcement, we did find some groups. For example, the Sheriff's Department, they rate underage drinking and particularly drunk driving as an extremely high priority with them. So we were able to find kind of a hand-in-glove fit with the Sheriff's Department. With that fit, if they're willing to prioritize this, you know, they have limited funds and limited number of people that are out on the streets, but they do their spot checks and look at the Class A and Class B establishments and see what kind of compliance issues that they run into with that.